Welcome to your week in review here on the WWE podcast. A lot to discuss tonight with just 1 week until Backlash. Yes, here on the WWE podcast, we refer to it as just Backlash because that's exactly what it is. So we're going to get into Alexa Bliss and who she could be targeting first. We think we may have an answer. We also get into Jimmy Uso's big return to SmackDown, long-awaited return, and where his loyalties might lie with Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, or maybe with just himself. So we're going to discuss that and so much more right after this word from our sponsor. So if you're looking for that birthday gift, anniversary gift, or hey, Mother's Day is right around the corner, then I've got a great website for you guys. It's ihomedigital.com. Pretty easy to remember, right? What's on here? Well, everything. I mean, really, everything from home electronics, kitchen gadgets, DSLR cameras, Roombas, home gadgets, drones, just to name a few. They even have a meat thermometer, a Bluetooth meat thermometer that you don't have to leave your couch to check the temperature. There are PlayStation Store gift cards. You can buy notebooks and laptops. They also have a huge focus on 3D printers and drones as well. Really, guys, this is just crazy. Head on over to ihomedigital.com. All of the prices are very competitive. So head on over to ihomedigital.com.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said, give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Hey, everybody. It is Sunday night. If it's Sunday night, that can only mean one thing. Wrestling Week in Review, our WWE Wrestling Week in Review. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope you had a nice weekend on this Sunday, May 9th. Happy Mother's Day to all those that listen, even though I know most of my demographic is men that listen, or are men that listen. I can't speak today. That's not a good start. So anyway, thank you all for joining me here. We're going to get into the week in review. Again, as I open the show, there's so much to discuss, and next week, with it being a pay-per-view weekend, feels like it's been forever. With WrestleMania Backlash, or Backlash as I say, we have, as always, a special show to do. Every pay-per-view, we do an immediate show right after the show ends, of course, with The Botch Guy, YouTube's The Botch Guy. So if you want some fun video to go with the audio here on our show, then head on over to The Botch Guy because he's great. Really a fun guy, a genuinely nice guy. And I'm not saying that because he's paying me to say that. For real, I'm not. He's genuinely a very, very nice guy. So go on over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and support his family. For real. I'm not asking you to give him money. I'm just asking you to hit the subscribe button or just check him out. For real. Very, very intelligent, high energy, and just awesome, and fits perfectly with wrestling and doing wrestling videos. And his channel's growing like crazy. So a lot happened this week in WWE. Really, a lot did. As, again, we're headed towards Backlash this coming Sunday night, a week from tonight. We'll be watching Backlash all together. And Roman Reigns got a perceived ally back. At least he thought he did. And in Jey Uso. And that was a pretty fast-moving storyline on SmackDown. Nicely woven through the show. Many of us were waiting and anxiously, for the return of Jey Uso. I think that many of us were wondering, when the hell is he coming back? It feels like it's been forever. And the last time we saw him was Hell in a Cell in October. And I'm glad Jimmy Uso brought that up and didn't just gloss over it as if it didn't exist. I was very worried that WWE would say, fans don't remember that far back. I appreciate the fact, and I shouldn't even have to say it. I shouldn't even have to say something that obvious, that I hope they don't completely forget the fact that Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso were fighting against Roman Reigns at Hell in a Cell. Jimmy coming in, of course, to help out his brother, and Roman Reigns does the excellent sell job of crying, then puts him in the Kimura, or the guillotine, and then Jey says, "I quit," so Roman Reigns would stop, choking out his brother. I mean, it was an emotional match. That to me was such a one of many career-defining matches in the heel turn of Roman Reigns. So I really, really enjoyed that segment. I really enjoyed this storyline throughout the show. I thought it was well done, and so I'm going to dive into that much more. And it makes you wonder, who the hell can stop Roman Reigns? The more I think about it, the more his name is not Cesaro. So we're going to get into that, and many people think, hey, it could be The Rock, right? Well, speaking of The Rock, if you want an exclusive show that myself and Anthony DeMarco did, head on over to Patreon. Patreon.com/WWE podcast, or just download the Patreon app and search us out. You know what to look for. The reason I'm letting you know is because our very first show that we did, we're starting a weekly show called What If? And on each of those shows, we're going to be discussing what if. What if this happened? What if that happened? What if this were to happen? What if this didn't happen in the past? So we're not just looking backwards, but we're also looking forwards. And the very first show we did was recorded this Saturday morning. In our first episode, we discussed, what if The Rock never won Hollywood? And we discussed who his opponents could have been, how long his career would have gone until he retired, some of his key opponents, matches we missed out on, if he would have turned back babyface and how quickly, or if he would have stayed heel. So many just awesome questions that Anthony DeMarco and I are going to cover. And actually, we did cover in our first episode, and it is available on Patreon if you are a Raw tier member and above. So that's really like tier 2 and higher. So that show is exclusive to the Patreon members who are Raw tier and higher. So check that out. And I do want to thank those of you that have upgraded in the last week or so in anticipation of this show. And those individuals are G-Man, Deanna, and HBK Fazo. So thank you to those that have upgraded. And I encourage you to check it out, because it's not just a matter of upgrading to get this particular show. There are other goodies. Check out our page. I'm not going to go through it. I don't want to make this an infomercial, as I say, but I would encourage you, as we try to grow this show, monetize it. Hey, I'm not ashamed of that. I think that we've reached a level that it's probably something we should do. We'd be stupid not to. And I think we offer really good value for what we offer. So check out the WWE podcast on Patreon. Patreon.com/WWE podcast. And you guys know how to find us. Again, lots of other goodies coming. You can even chat with me live during a pay-per-view from the Raw tier and higher as well, among many other benefits. So I'll leave it to you to just look at the page. It's very easy to look at. I promise you, it's not an essay. Very simple. It's a bullet point. Here's what you get. Boom, 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 boom. So Anthony DeMarco and I, again, we're very excited to be able to bring this show to you guys, because, number one, it's a brand new show, and I think it's going to open up so many different possibilities for us to talk about things. It's really unlimited. It's unlimited. So head on over to Patreon and search out the WWE podcast and get yourself Raw tier or higher. Will get you that show and a bunch more stuff. So, okay, let's move on to the week in review, because, again, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Roman Reigns dynamic. I'm going to start there because I think, again, I started a little bit and I paused for the shameless plug, and now I want to return to it. This, again, is one of those deals where we didn't know what was going to happen upon Jimmy Uso's return. We saw what happened at Hell in a Cell, and you're thinking, well, that seems to be Jimmy Uso coming back, and that he'll be back on a regular basis to face Roman Reigns, or at least try to take up arms against him, and nothing happened. We never saw him after that. And he's been out. It feels like Jimmy Uso's been out. Doesn't it feel like years? It feels so long since we've seen Jimmy Uso. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I'm just feeling like it literally has been a couple of years since we've seen Jimmy, but it's good to see him back. I think he looks great. And this story was, I think, woven very well during the show. And at the beginning, with Jimmy coming back and shaking hands with everybody like we're best friends. And when that happened, I was worried. I was thinking, hey, Are we going to remember what the hell happened the last time that everybody got together and what Roman Reigns did? And they didn't bring it up until the end of the show. And I was going to go on a massive rant had Jimmy Uso come back, nothing to say, everything's good, no sign of dissension. That would have, I would have lost my mind. But they didn't. And it was just it was very nicely done, because also Jimmy Uso is so much easier to understand. He speaks a little bit more clearly, I'll just put it that way, where Jay kind of just goes off on, well, he's got a lot of energy and he's intense. Sometimes I have to kind of strain my ear or slow down his volume or slow down his pacing, I should say, to understand what the hell he's saying. Yeah, I think that Jay has come a long way, but sometimes I don't know, he just speaks in some kind of like hybrid English language sometimes, and I don't quite understand him. Jimmy is a little bit more audible. I'll say that. And look, I understand some people in real life speak like that. Like if people are thinking, "Oh, he's being racist," I'm not being racist. Okay, like I don't care. Okay, what skin color, whatever. I don't care who's speaking like this. It's just sometimes difficult to understand when you're not speaking clearly and audibly. I'm not asking for you to speak to me like a 5-year-old and speak like this, because Matt doesn't know how to understand what I'm saying, as I mock myself. I'm not saying that, okay? But when he's, sometimes he speaks a little bit too much and too much slang, using too much oos and this and that, like just, I don't know. Anyway, so Jimmy, as I went off on a weird tangent there, I think feels a little bit more like a leader, if that makes sense. And standing up to Roman Reigns, or saying to Roman in the back, I'm not going to be your B, meaning, what it rhymes with the word itch. Okay. He says that, I'm not anybody's blank, and that, I'm not here to serve anybody. I was like, okay, wow. That happened fast. You would have expected that to happen a little bit later down the story. And it didn't. It happened that night. In fact, it happened in the same 20-minute time span, or hour time span. And I was like, okay, I guess we're off to the races with this, and let's see what happens. And I was expecting Roman Reigns to pull the whole, I'm going to banish you from the family card that he pulled with Jay. And he didn't do it yet. And maybe he will. But that's really the carrot that he dangled over Jey Uso's head, was, if you don't acknowledge me, if you don't say that I'm the head of the table, then essentially I'm banishing you from the family. And that's what Jey didn't want. He didn't want to lose his family, because Roman is the head of the table. And so I was expecting him to kind of say the same thing to Jimmy. And maybe we'll get that in the coming weeks. But that's not what was said. So Jimmy just said, I'm not going to bow down, all this stuff. And so Jimmy and Jay have a conversation backstage, and it kind of there was a little bit of friction there. It ultimately leads into Roman Reigns coming out at the end of the show and not being happy with Jimmy and saying, all you have to do is acknowledge me. Just acknowledge me. To which Jimmy comes out, doesn't acknowledge Roman Reigns as the head of the table. Jay tells him, it's all you got to do, Oos, is just acknowledge us, and this all goes away. You can be a part of us. You can be one of us. Cesaro ends up interrupting and laying everyone out with the sloppiest neutralizers I've ever seen. And I hate using the word sloppy in the same sentence as Cesaro feels weird, because everything Cesaro does is never sloppy. And especially with talent of this caliber, it's weird to say anything is sloppy. Perhaps the neutralizer is just a weird move to pull off quickly. And I think that's probably why the neutralizer for all three men, or no, I'm sorry, all two. I think Jimmy didn't get a neutralizer. Jay and Roman did. and it was sloppy. It was weird, but I'm not ranting. It was just weird to see that move not executed cleanly, especially from top tier caliber talent like them. And Cesaro stands tall, and it was really just the biggest night of Cesaro's career, I think. And had the fans have been there, that's what I wonder what would have happened, right? And we've said this so many times over the last 15 months now. What would the fans have said and done and screamed, right? What would they have chanted? We don't know. We don't know. And that's the hard part. Do I think they would have booed Cesaro? No. But do I think they would have been as loud of cheers as WWE pumped in? Maybe not. I think at times their crowd reactions are very overdone. But Cesaro ends up just laying everybody out. And Jimmy does eventually come to the aid after being very conflicted to the aid of Jimmy and Roman. Didn't help because Cesaro was on fire and laid everyone out anyway. So, Cesaro, though, did earn his Universal Championship match at Backlash. I'm surprised that they did it this quickly. I thought there would be much more cat and mouse. In fact, I was kind of hoping for it. But the fact that they did go to this so quickly tells me that they likely aren't stringing this out to SummerSlam. Cesaro is yet but another stepping stone for Roman Reigns, and they have a much bigger opponent in mind for Roman Reigns towards SummerSlam. There is just almost no way that they're stringing this out another, how many months we got? 3.5 months until SummerSlam? Very unlikely. Very unlikely. So I think that, unfortunately for you Cesaro fans, myself included, there is nearly a 0% chance that Cesaro wins the WWE Championship match. I think it's going to be all about not necessarily Cesaro winning or losing, but rather the family drama between Jay, Jimmy, and Roman. How does that play out? Where does Jimmy Uso's loyalties lie? Do they lie with Jay? Do they lie with Roman? Do they lie with himself? I mean, what do I think? I don't know. Ultimately, if you're going to put me on the spot, I'm going to say that Jimmy is going to fall in line. I think Jimmy is not going to defy Roman and defy Jay. The reason is because it makes much more sense right now for Jimmy to join than not. Now, the argument against it is, well, who's Roman going to face in the interim? He's gone through Kevin Owens. What other top babyface is there if he goes through Cesaro? Who does he face? You could have Jimmy and Roman go at it for a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so to fill a gap between, pay-per-view and the one that matters of SummerSlam. You could. But again, the argument for it, I think, is stronger. The reason I think it's stronger and why I think it's stronger, that Jimmy stays with Roman Reigns and Jay, is that we will finally get the bloodline group. We'll get the bloodline faction that we've wanted, the real one. Not the one that kind of happened a few years ago that went nowhere, but rather the real one. That means real business and backing Roman Reigns, making him even stronger, making it feel like he's even more insurmountable, will make the babyface that they are going to choose to eventually overcome Roman Reigns that much better, that much more important, and that much more meaningful when that person does finally topple this man and capture the WWE Universal Championship. So, again, could Jimmy dissent from the group for a month or so while Roman doesn't have anyone to kind of mess with for a pay-per-view? Yeah, he could. He could. But ultimately, I think what Jimmy is going to do is fall in line and acknowledge Roman Reigns. I don't need a Jimmy Uso Roman Reigns championship match that we all know the outcome is going to be Roman Reigns winning anyway. So it'll help Jimmy. Again, I'm fine with it if the program lasts a month. And then Jimmy ends up just kind of bowing his head and cowering like Jay has. I think that makes sense. And that's probably what we'll get. Well, Jimmy stands up for himself. It ultimately doesn't work. Roman destroys him and makes him submit, and he falls in line. That's what I think is going to happen, just as it happened with Jey Uso. And then, again, now you'll have a faction, a true faction. And it makes more sense than having Jimmy, just kind of battle back and forth. And then what's he going to do? Go on a singles? I mean, it doesn't make sense. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think on that. I'm interested because I don't think I'm 100% right. I'm sure many of you out there are saying, what about this and this? So let me know. Hit me up on email, realwwepodcast@gmail.com. Hell, get it in for our mailbag on Wednesday or call us, 518-952-0247. So there is a lot to discuss, certainly, as we get closer to the pay-per-view. And SmackDown, there is one more episode of SmackDown. This was, by the way, the retro version of SmackDown. I don't exactly understand what kind of SmackDown this was, why the hell it's called retro, and why they even did this. I have a bit of a little rant to go on in just a minute, but first I'm going to take a break for the sponsor of this episode, and then buckle in. This might be a little bit more of a rant than you think, so stay here. We'll be right back. So if you guys are looking for something new to listen to in your podcast lineup, and maybe you love a good debate, then I've got a great new podcast for you. It's called Argue Bros, and with only 3 episodes, they already sound like they've been around for years. They talk about things like, is gaming a sport? Nike versus Adidas. And I have to say, guys, after listening to their discussion about if gaming is a sport or not, they did change my opinion. Maybe they'll change yours, but really with an unlimited number of topics, this podcast is sure to take off. And they're already available really everywhere, from Breaker to Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and more. So check out Argue Bros. They have such great diverse voices, and the sound quality is already through the roof. So check out Argue Bros. Again, you can find them everywhere, from Pocket Cast to Spotify, Google, and Breaker, and so forth. So check it out, guys. It's really going to be worth your time. Entertaining. Check Argue Bros out today. So if you're looking for that birthday gift, anniversary gift, or hey, Mother's Day is right around the corner, then I've got a great website for you guys. It's ihomedigital.com. Pretty easy to remember, right? What's on here? Well, everything. I mean, really, everything from home electronics, kitchen gadgets, DSLR cameras, Roombas, home gadgets, drones, just to name a few. They even have a meat thermometer, a Bluetooth meat thermometer that you don't have to leave your couch to check the temperature. There are PlayStation Store gift cards. You can buy notebooks and laptops. They also have a huge focus on 3D printers and drones as well. Really, guys, this is just crazy. Head on over to ihomedigital.com. All of the prices are very competitive. So head on over to ihomedigital.com.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Okay. So WWE did have their retro SmackDown show, and I was excited for this because I thought that when they said retro, I should have known that it wasn't going to be old. Maybe, I guess there's a difference between old school and retro and throwback. I mean, I guess, although to me they're all kind of synonyms of one another. But my hope was, oh, cool, they're going to bring back the fist. They're going to bring back the original intro. It's going to be great. And while we got the fist via CGI, by the way, which was infuriating, at least, I mean, we got it. I don't know what's worse, not getting it or just having it thrown in as CGI. We got a retro version of SmackDown, which was like, okay, it's almost like the retro version of SmackDown was if the current product existed in the 1980s. That's what it was, with also the original SmackDown group thrown in. it was bizarre. SmackDown felt like it was struggling with its identity. That's what it felt like. Because they had the current storylines, and they didn't pause the storylines. They kept them going. They didn't do anything wonky or, anything like that, and that was fine. So they kept the current storylines going, which to me is the most important. And they also brought back Teddy Long, and they did his usual dance that he does, and they did his usual make, an 18,000-man tag team match, which at this point is look, I think it was funny, but they've drilled it into the ground so many times with how many, the thousands of episodes of SmackDown, and anytime they do a specialty retro, even, I think he was even on Monday Night Raw, and they've just drilled it into the ground so much that I'm having a problem with finding it entertaining anymore with Teddy Long. And I love Teddy Long. In fact, believe it or not, I had him on a podcast I did. I had a whole conversation with him for about a half hour on another podcast I did, which is no longer available. So maybe I'll actually, if I still have my contact, reach out to Teddy Long's agent. I'm not kidding. I'm for real. Maybe I'll get him back on. It's been 5 years since I talked to him. But I would think that they would, eventually run out of that juice that they think it's funny to have Teddy Long out there and making these ridiculous tag team matches, because that's what he did throughout his SmackDown career. It was actually really annoying. It was super duper annoying with Teddy Long before it became a parody of himself, where when he was the actual Raw GM, when he came out, you knew there was going to be a tag team match. And I don't know if towards the end they just did it out of comedy or they did it because they actually thought it was just creatively a good idea. I don't know. But at this point, he does the holla, 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 and he does his dance, which is funny, I guess. And he also says, "You're going to have a match with The Undertaker." I mean, he did that before. He made a parody of that already, I think sometime last year before the pandemic. He's done this before. It's kind of been there, done that. And they also had the retro graphics, which again, were never part of SmackDown ever. They were never part of SmackDown. 1999, the first episode of SmackDown. That was not a part of SmackDown. So that was weird. But I guess if it's retro, you have that, but it was never part of SmackDown. So how can you have a retro SmackDown in which that SmackDown never existed? So you're just doing an alternate universe of SmackDown. I guess I'm looking into this too much, but I had trouble with this version of SmackDown. Then they kind of had the old logo of SmackDown, but I don't know. I didn't know what to think of this. It was kind of like they thought of something gimmicky to get people to watch. Oh, cool, they're going to see an old version of SmackDown. No. To me, bring the old theme music back, bring the fist back, and then you can say it's a retro throwback version of SmackDown. So, I don't know. Did anybody else have this issue with SmackDown? It was, it didn't know what to do with itself. It was frustrating, but also nostalgic in a weird way, yet I didn't watch in the 80s. So, okay. Let's move on with the current storyline, guys, because we still have a lot to talk about. So, sticking with SmackDown, because I think that's probably the easiest way to do this, we got Carmella versus Ruby Riott. I have to say, it's very telling when WWE is not going to give somebody the win when they don't even show their entrance on the show. That's how you know where somebody is valued or how much someone is valued in the company, and furthermore, what they're going to probably end up doing at the end of that match. Meaning, are they going to be the one to submit or be pinned? And the answer is yes. In this case, Ruby Riott was was on the losing side of this particular confrontation with Carmella. And I have to say, I don't know what it is with the women lately, but it seems to be a theme. It seems now it's starting to become a little bit of a pattern where they're starting to kind of sexify some of the women, sexualize, pick your adjective for make the women a sex object again. And who is being victimized by that? Or I guess not victimized. Maybe it's by their own choice. I know we're all professional victims these days, but who are the candidates for this sexualization? Well, Eva Marie, and now Carmella. I'm sure I could think of other examples, but right now those are the two that, man, when you look at Carmella, what they've done with her, she came back as a snotty, champagne drinking, just kind of, what, and she faded away quickly after that. After that, she just went nowhere after, she wasn't going to be in the women's title picture, and Reginald left her. That was it. Once Reginald left her, that really kind of like sealed her fate. And now we see a silhouette of her dancing very provocatively, and then the curtain goes up and she's there, and her boobs are hanging out. Like, I mean, look, I don't hate it because I'm a dude and I'm straight, but it's like, I mean, that's not what I'm watching wrestling for. And when your identity becomes kind of the skimpiness of your outfit, or how good your boobs look pushed up or whatever, and don't, look, because that's kind of the focal point, right? I don't need that. I don't want that. And they did the same thing with Eva Marie in her vignette on Raw, where it was just really all about the sexualization. And while it's not very forthright, it's not going to ever be said. They're not going to say that out loud. That right now is I want someone to tell me, and I'm being serious. I will bring you on the show if you want to argue this with me. What beyond sexualization have they done with Eva Marie? Again, one vignette, or really Carmella, a much more significant sample size. What have they done? The answer is zero. Other than look at their bodies. Aren't they sexy? That's what they've done. And I don't need that. I don't. In my wrestling product, it's distracting. I think it's also regressive for the women. I'm not a fan. So Ruby Riott, who does not get an entrance, loses to the Code of Silence, and Riott taps out very quickly. As Liv Morgan stands there and can't do anything. I mean, they are, whatever they're doing with the Riott Squad is, it's just inexcusable at this point in their careers. How they have not captured a championship of any kind is it's a podcast in and of itself, is what it is. Okay, Bayley continues or conducted an in-ring promo, and she gave a lot of backhanded compliments to some of the women who have paved the way, like Jacqueline. They did a lot of retro. I guess this fits with the theme of retro. They showed a lot of previous clips from SmackDown, which some were very good. Eddie Guerrero and Vince McMahon and his lowrider, and the very first episode of SmackDown with Shawn Michaels screwing over The Rock, among others. John Cena's debut against Kurt Angle, Mr. Ruthless Aggression. I mean, they did pick some good ones that we've all seen 100 million times. But I guess if you're going to fit with the retro version of SmackDown, then there you go. So Bayley's in the ring conducting this kind of backhanded compliment segment to the Legends of Yesteryear with Molly. I think, was Molly Holly one of them, or Ivory? I think Ivory was one, and Alundra Blaze was another. Jacqueline, a two-time women's champion, was one. And they're all backhanded compliments as Bayley just continues to compare them to herself and how she's the longest single-running SmackDown Women's Champion in history at 380 days or something like that. And then she gets to eventually Bianca Belair and runs her down, to which Bianca comes out. And, I got to say, it is really difficult to find a babyface to cheer. I don't know how you cheer for a babyface that says they're the strongest, the fastest, the best, the highest, I'm the est of everything. How is that a babyface character? I mean, she is likable, and that she does have that going for her. Her personality at least is admirable. That she comes all across likable on camera, and luckily for her it is, because otherwise she's playing a heel gimmick in a babyface body. You cannot tell me that you're telling me you're the best, you're the highest, you're the brightest, you're the smartest, you're the est of everything, and yet that's a babyface character. That's the epitome of arrogance. The epitome of one-upsmanship. I mean, I don't know. I got to give credit where credit's due, though, because they've taken a completely heel, arrogant persona and somehow made it tolerable as a babyface character. It's really amazing. But Belair was just there to tell Bayley that she should be more worried about herself and that she's going to defeat Bayley at Backlash. And Bayley tried to attack her, and then we got Bianca Belair taking over, but Bayley got the upper hand and ripping at Belair's earring, slamming her to the mat. The earring actually came out well before she actually tried to pull at it. That's beside the point. I get what they're doing. So Bayley is there to, again, be a stepping stone for Bianca Belair, who is not going to lose that championship anytime soon. The earliest, of course, I think would be SummerSlam. All right, Dominic Mysterio defeats Dolph Ziggler via pinfall. So the original match was supposed to be Ziggler versus Rey, but before the match, Ziggler, who continues to just do horrific things with his hair. I mean, they're horrendous. They're so... I don't know I don't know. Like, Ziggler feels like a dude that is trying to get too much attention, if there's such a thing in wrestling. I mean, I guess there's no such thing if you're trying to get too much attention. But his hair is really the story of the week. And when we're talking about his hair and not his in-ring work, there's a problem with the story, right? Like, Dolph Ziggler has done so much with his hair, so many different things, that I can't keep up. Half the time he looks like a pretty girl's hair, or like a high school, a teenager's hair that they, air dried before they went to school. And then he looks kind of like the old soccer mom joke. And then sometimes he does tributes like he did to Bianca Belair. He did I think the week after she won at WrestleMania, he did a tribute to her by braiding his hair. I guess it's really just the story of the week for me is what Dolph does with his hair. But Dolph ends up losing here to Dominic, and it was via the small package pin and got the 3 count. A very, I guess, surprising win if you look at where they're stacked in the totem pole of the imaginary rankings in WWE. So Dominic ends up, again, getting that kind of quick win to upset Ziggler, and we move on with our lives because I don't think anyone really cares what Dominic's doing with his career. I'm sorry. No one does. Right now, Dominic, he showed a little bit of fire on the mic the other night, the other week, I should say. But Dominic has, and I'm sure in person he's got much more of it, but he shows almost no personality on camera. Like, next to zero. The guy is fine in the ring. I think has learned more and is more capable than many of us thought he could be, especially at this point. But man, the dude is as flat as a pancake on the mic, and in personality, there's just not a lot there. And Ziggler was exactly right when he told Dominic, "You're gonna always just be remembered as Rey Mysterio's son." At least that's how it feels right now. I know that it's probably cool for them. Like in actual real life, they're probably loving what they're doing because as a father-son tag team, I'm sure it's actually a really cool thing. I'm sure they love it. But okay, Tamina versus Reginald in a match. Oh, good Lord. Now when WWE creates an intergender match, especially when it's one-on-one, one of two things is going to happen. One, in the case of Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss on Raw several weeks ago, a couple months ago now, that it's going to be a non-finish, or at least the match will never get started, and that's exactly what happened with that. Or, the man isn't going to get any offense in it at all. There are no other two options. And in this case, option 2 was the preferred option, where Reginald, who is more interested in doing acrobatics rather than, going on any kind of offense, just ends up being a punching bag for the women, and has been a punching bag for the women since day one. Now, people are probably saying to me, well, you can't have the man beat up the woman. Have you forgot this is professional wrestling? They'll never do it because of sponsorships and they're PG, and they don't want to ever send the message of domestic violence. But you know what? Domestic violence happens both ways. And I think it's super underreported with women who beat on men. I know people laugh. People laugh, and that's fine. But domestic violence doesn't go one way if that's the message that you're worried about sending. And furthermore, it is effing professional wrestling. I know it's 2021, and the culture and the sensitivity of everyone takes precedence over just basic reality. But we have to remember the environment we're in. It is pro wrestling. This is not an MMA cage. We're not watching an actual boxing match. We are watching pro wrestling. But, which again, that means we will never see an offensive move dished out on a woman on behalf of a man, even if the man is doing it in self-defense and is, in the world of wrestling, doing it legally per the rules of the match. It is all just, hey guys, look, you got to just go on defense, just avoid. Don't ever go on offense. So I guess, that's how you win a match, guys. You just kind of just avoid. You just do matrix moves and flips and flops and try to avoid the offense of the woman. Oh boy. I don't understand it. I can't, because you just know the outcome you're going to get. But Reginald is entertaining in his own right, and Tamina does end up beating him. Baszler and Nia Jax take out Tamina and Natalya to end the night, or end that particular segment. Okay, we did get a 10-man tag team match per good old Teddy Long, and how this ended was Nakamura delivered a kick to Zayn as Nakamura attempted to take control of Zayn. King Corbin, who I actually was hoping wasn't going to be King Corbin any longer, given he show like a new outfit. He had like a top hat on and stuff during an interview at one point. I was like, good, the King gimmick is dead. Oh no, the King gimmick lives on to our delight. He entered the ring and hit End of Days on Nakamura, since Nakamura didn't realize that Corbin was the legal man. So not only does the absolutely dead and tasteless King Corbin gimmick live on, it actually ended up getting the victory in this match over Nakamura. So, what does this mean? The only thing I think you can delineate from this outcome is King Corbin is potentially in line for a push of some sort, elevation. He's in line for something, I think. But we continue to get Sami Zayn, who is the conspiracy theorist. Kevin Owens and his team were also getting a pumped up backstage while Big E talks about feel the power and continues to just reconnect himself with the New Day gimmick, which is just killing him, absolutely killing him for his singles run. But could Big E be the one to finally dethrone Roman Reigns? Very possible. Very possible. What I would like to say, too, is next week, the Women's Tag Team Championship is on the line with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defending against Tamina and Natalya. If you didn't see the Tamina Talking Smack segment, they showed it again. It's worth seeing. Talking Smack seems to be a very nice platform to get these real promos, and we got a nice one from Tamina, probably her best of her career. And why the hell they are not waiting until, just 2 days later at Backlash to have this championship match, I don't know. You would assume there's some kind of reason. Maybe they'll have a screwy finish, which leads to a rematch in 2 nights. Perhaps. But again, another SmackDown, another WWE event, another championship opportunity. Talk about watering down the importance of having championship matches on free TV. There's been no time in history I remember this many championship matches. None. It's infuriating, really, because championships are everything. Why else would they be there, right? Okay, as far as the Monday Night Raw side goes, I had a whole Monday Night Raw review this past week, as always, so I don't want to get too deep into Monday Night Raw since I've already talked about the show at length. But I will say, this is brought to me by listeners regarding the Alexa Bliss target. Who could that be? I believe it was one of our patrons. Was it Nathan? If it wasn't Nathan, I apologize. But he brought to my attention, who could this be? And the clue that we all are looking to is the color red. That's what Alexa Bliss said Lily's favorite color was. Does that mean, and this is not my thoughts, this is the thoughts from our patrons. Nathan, I think specifically. And it was brought to my attention does red mean targeting Sonya Deville because Sonya Deville is wearing red? Or does the red signify the Raw Women's Championship? Which, by default, would target the Raw Women's Champion, whomever that may be, after Backlash. Or does Alexa Bliss get involved at Backlash and screw somebody over? A lot to really look at here. I really enjoy the digging through the coding that she's giving us. I like it. I do. As sloppy as a divorce from the Fiend was, I like how we're having to kind of dig through and feel out what she's talking about, when, how this is going to work, who she could target. I'm okay with it. I really am. So the other thing, RKBro. A lot of people that listen to this show that hate RKBro. But I think some people are starting to warm up to it. And I know I am. And I have buried Matt Riddle many times on this show. But with RKBro, I've explained why I actually somewhat enjoy it. And I continue to enjoy RKBro as long as Randy doesn't turn into this babbling buffoon and change his character. The whole glue, the glue, the adhesion, whatever adjective you want to use, the whole purpose of this, or the whole magic that makes this work, is Randy Orton's serious character. Is this dude being a grizzled veteran who doesn't have time for this buffoon, but is entertaining him because he's helping him win matches. So, I'm okay with it for now. I think that Randy Orton is in a holding pattern, yet it doesn't look like he is because he found something new. And it's a matter of, when does he turn? I think Randy could turn as soon as Monday, this coming Monday, to set up a match between himself and Riddle at Backlash. But I also think there's an equal chance that he waits a couple of months and this gets strung out until, Extreme Rules in July? It's possible. It is very possible. So I don't know if they want to drop something that they caught lightning in a bottle with. I don't think they expected RK-Bro to catch on as quickly as it has. Sometimes you just put two guys together on camera and it just works. And you don't expect it to until you hit that red light and go, whoa, guys, we've got something here. And I think they do. How long, how deep this runs, I don't know. But Matt Riddle has completely turned his career around, albeit still an absolute goofball, riding around on a scooter, talking about snakeskin attire, but he's got somebody to bounce it off of, and the most serious guy on the roster. The guy that was punting skulls just last year, dealing with death threats from The Fiend just a couple of months ago. There's no better dude to bounce it off of. Let's see what else. I don't want to cover everything from Raw. What else? McIntyre laying out Strowman and Lashley to end the show. McIntyre has been chasing the WWE Championship and been in the championship picture for much too long now. I think I alluded to that in my Raw review. It's time for McIntyre to move on. He can come back to the championship picture, in a few months, or even towards the end of the year, or maybe not until the Rumble or after that, and maybe chase it when it's time for Mania again. But I'm ready for McIntyre to chase something else and feel what it's like to have him chase something else. It's weird that I'm saying that Drew McIntyre is starting to feel a bit one-dimensional. Or at least he's flatlined for a little while. because he's chasing the same thing. And look, there's no one more that appreciates the championship value more than I do. Any championship, particularly the most prestigious in WWE, the WWE Championship. I'll be the first guy to admit that should be the most important. But when you have somebody who's constantly in the discussion and you don't want to bore the audience with the character and the constant recycling of that person in and out of the championship picture, it's time to find new people in that picture and have Drew go after somebody that is just pissing him off, right? Like, you just want to see Drew flatten somebody because he did something to screw him over. I just want Drew to be in something looking for revenge. Like, I want him out there looking for vengeance, not necessarily looking for a championship. He has added value to the belt. No doubt. He's done an awesome job. No doubt. But it's starting to feel like Drew's losing steam because it's so repetitive of what he's after. So, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but hopefully at Backlash he loses. Lashley retains. He probably will. I've already told you my thought for the finish. It's going to be a Claymore to a Braun Strowman. McIntyre collapses or rolls out of the ring and gives Lashley an opportunity to make the cover. 1, 2, 3, Lashley retains after pinning Strowman. That is my thought. So I think it's fairly confident. I'm fairly confident in that pick. I don't know if there's anything else I really need to touch on. I'm again, Angel Garza and Drew Gulak. I don't really need to touch on that. Sheamus and Mansoor I already did. Charlotte Flair is kicking ass as always. She defeated Dana Brooke in a hard-fought match, at least hard-fought in the terms of Dana Brooke's career. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't have a whole lot to add. Oh, AJ Styles and Omos, I think they're back. Like, we actually get to see the Raw Tag Team Championships after a month off, which they tried to blame on the heel champions, yet we all know it's just WWE Creative having absolutely nothing for them the last month. So I don't think the crowd would have really booed, especially considering that everyone knows that it's really the Creative and Vince that had nothing for them for a month. And it's just a fact. Nobody was injured. It was all just, hey, guys, sorry, we don't have you anything for you this week. Go home. Maybe next week. So, all right. Well, it's a little bit shorter of a week in review, but I rode solo tonight. I think that's, once in a while it's okay to do, but it was my choice. I love all my co-hosts, but given my time frame tonight, I didn't want to hamstring anybody to doing a shorter show. But big week, of course, with the pay-per-view week. We've got the Raw review coming Tuesday. You've got your mailbag on Wednesday and the Wrestling Nostalgia Show, which is exclusive now to Patreon for all members of Patreon. And then Thursday's AEW and NXT. Friday is your rivalries with Anthony DeMarco. Saturday, 2 shows coming your way. The first is your What If segment, What If show with Anthony DeMarco and myself, which is exclusive to the Raw tier and above on Patreon. And the WWE Backlash preview and prediction show that is going to drop Saturday night, the night before the pay-per-view, with a co-host that has yet to be named. So that'll be coming, of course, on the free feed with that one. And then Sunday with the pay-per-view, we'll be doing a review show with none other than YouTube's The Botch Guy. So, all right, well, that's all I got for today, guys. Head on over to Patreon if you want to get yourself signed up and get those exclusive shows and access to me directly and priority on the mailbag, everything. Just so many good little goodies on that page. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Give us a 5-star rating and review if you love the show. And as always, I'll talk to you next time. So if you're looking for that birthday gift, anniversary gift, or hey, Mother's Day's right around the corner, then I've got a great website for you guys. It's ihomedigital.com. Pretty easy to remember, right? What's on here? Well, everything. I mean, really, everything from home electronics, kitchen gadgets, DSLR cameras, Roombas, home gadgets, drones, just to name a few. They even have a meat thermometer, a Bluetooth meat thermometer that you don't have to leave your couch to check the temperature. There are PlayStation Store gift cards. You can buy notebooks and laptops. They also have a huge focus on 3D printers and drones as well. Really, guys, this is just crazy. Head on over to ihomedigital.com. All of the prices are very competitive. So head on over to ihomedigital.com.